Here.
We do have 5 members. We do have a quorum. Moving on to the pledge, roll call's done, Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and I pledge allegiance.
comment.
Mr. Chairman, we do not, and we've received nothing in the mail either to be read in as public comment.
Okay. Tab item 2 is the public comment as well in order to comply with the necessary agenda.
Either.
Okay. Let the
Board members received this in the mail was to increase the litigation by vehicle allotment instead of 7 cars. I think it was 5 cars every year. So we
questions.
Below the first step, which is really not appropriate. They need to be. And then how that's being treated. Are they? I mean, you divvy up differently. So some people maybe just get a 1% COLA if they're in line with the market. So I'm not saying like don't approve the dollars, but I would like to have some conversation about the compensation strategy, the how it would be most effectively utilized to address inequity using those same dollars. Because I think you could do it with, I think you could do that
right, and that
within that 4% of compensation that you've set aside.
yes, and we are planning on doing that. We started. The board allowed us to go out and get a analysis of our pay according to the market and according to the state.
This is this, right?
And that just yes, ma'am. That's it. And that just happened 3 years ago. So it's only been this current budget and last year that we've been able to go in and put some monies in there. What we are doing it is a market adjustment. We've changed the language so that it does reflect a market adjustment. And then we have a portion about half and half. It's about a total of $280,000, and then half of it is merit-based, competency-based. We are currently, since we started working on this in 2016 was the first time we made an adjustment. We had 23 employees that were under, totally under. They weren't even within a low medium range. They were way below. And we're now down to about 16. So we are working on these. The employees that show a long tenure, they may have been here 18 years, but they've been promoted. And so when they're promoted, they start at the lower or towards the lower end of the new promotion. So that's why you may see that inequity.
And that, yeah, I understand that. It wasn't clear.
Right.
Like length of time in the position versus where they were in the range.
And
I mean, if you look at the total number of people who are sort of below the minimum, it's like 41,000. They all should be brought up to the minimum at the first step of their range.
Right, and that's what we've been working on. Prior, we haven't had the funds, so that's why.
But in lieu of the COLA, you should use some of that money to move those people.
Yes, ma'am. And that's what we'd like to do.
Even if they get a little bit more, like percentage-wise, than other people initially.
But at least it would bring them up.
You get them like where they should be, and so I don't necessarily, for time purposes, want to like to have this conversation. I mean, tie everything up. But before you I would like to say you can't not to do anything regarding like distributing compensation until you come back, so we can have a really good understanding like what the game plan is.
Well, and we do have that, and on
what is market based? Who's getting?
Right.
Who are eligible based on what factor, and then what goes into merit?
And we do have that big spreadsheet so that we can give that out and we can look that up. We're about 16% overall below market right now, but we're doing better than we were. So we started out at about 29% below market. So we've been able to,
but not everybody.
We work on it, yeah.
Not everybody's, but that.
No,
I mean, you have some positions, some classes that are low.
Right,
but others are not. Others are very competitive.
Right, they are very competitive, and we have some that are over, and some of those are just because of tenure. They don't get, we're not allowed to give bonuses. Appraisal districts are not allowed to give a bonus, so
You
they've been
can't do a lump
frozen.
sum merit?
No, we're not. So they pretty much are frozen until they get caught up or they go to another position. We don't have a lot of positions, and we have some that are over because their title doesn't match their job specs or their job qualifications, and we're working on fixing those specs or fixing that title. Yeah, right,
I mean,
exactly,
if you have a
benchmarking.
single incumbent in that position, you can always like address the range for that
Right.
incumbent. And then when they leave, you take it back maybe to the more appropriate
Right,
range.
exactly, yes, ma'am. And that's what, since we've received this and just implemented it last year, that's what we're working on. So we appreciate having the funds in there so that we can continue, and then we'll come back with you to tell you what percentage goes. I think.
I don't want to get into who gets what. What I just want to say is like, this is the pay strategy.
Yes.
We have these many people below the minimum. They're going to go to the first step. It's this many dollars. These many people have been in this position for over 8 years or whatever, and they're this far away from the midpoint, so they get a market adjustment to get them closer, and then the rest is totally merit.
Right. We can do that as we get towards our fiscal year, October 1st. We'll have it. But yes, that's what this is all based on. That.
Okay.
And this
That's
is
right.
working within the dollar amounts that are approved in the budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Because it was 2% and 2%, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah.
It's
So there's
overall
like
4. It
4%.
can go either way. If
Yeah.
we see somebody's
To do
really
that.
low, you know. Yeah.
And then I don't know how, because I know one of the issues was the steps. And today at the county we had this conversation regarding our attorneys, and we hired an outside firm to come in and make sure that we were competitive within the market. And they found that our pay is competitive. It's just that the range of steps just needs to be adjusted a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's really going to be cost neutral for us. It's just a matter of adjusting the steps to make sure, because there was often people who've been an attorney for a while, and then there's someone who just comes in, but there isn't much differentiation.
Yeah.
Right, right,
between
and that's
steps.
what this
So-
survey. That's what this survey is doing to help us with on that.
Yeah.
Like I said, we just implemented this last year, and it's helping us with those steps.
Well, if you could bring us back some progress reports as you start working
sure.
towards October,
Mhm.
that we can kind of get an idea of how you're getting to that balance.
Right.
And,
Thanks.
Yes,
and
And I
something I'd also
appreciate
raise-
sending me all the info. Huh?
Yeah, and something I'd also raise too is also looking at the county. While there's some areas where pay may be lower, also looking at pension benefits. Now that y'all are part of TCDRS, factoring that in, and that wasn't something that was considered in today's survey. So they're getting back to us and how that makes that does factor in, because there are a lot of attorneys when comparing to the private practice or private sector, that's a benefit that
Right.
The county has sort of an advantage, but it's not reflected in the base salary.
Yes, sir.
So, and that may be another way to move people up in the ranges a little faster if they
Yes,
need to, is to look at like the percentage of your step increase from the minimum to the midpoint. Maybe it's quicker, and then once you get to the midpoint, then it's slow.
That's kind of what we've been doing the last 2 years, because the board has been gracious enough to give us a market adjustment, or COLA, which is more of a cost of expenses, and then of course a merit-based competency. So it's helped us by getting to where we need to be, so that we can start looking to see what our outliers are and fix the outliers and have a medium. Yes, ma'am. This is helping a lot.
And then overall, what is your annual rate of turnover, just in general? Is it below 10%?
Yes.
About 2%? Yeah, so the turnover is very low.
It's very hard for, we're very lucky or unfortunate being an appraisal district so far west. The other appraisal districts that are very centralized in the state of
They
Texas,
compete.
their turnover is massive, because they get trained, and then another district will steal them and pay them more, or give them more benefits. Or we're so far west, nobody wants to come here, and nobody wants to leave here. So, that's why you see such long tenure.
But then you
with
have
our
some
employees.
general positions like your admin, your IT and stuff that are kind of like generic, where there's like other markets to compete for them.
Right.
So you want to make sure, then some of those are the ones that are actually kind of low
Yes, they are.
compared to the others. Okay. So thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, if there's no other questions, I move to approve the EPCAD's 2017-18 budget as presented, and That would be a proposed budget of $14,954,128.86.
We have a motion by Ms. Searles to approve the budget as presented. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Wilson. Is there any further discussion on the item? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much. We're going to now move into tab item number 9, which is our executive session. This is under the authority of the Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074. It is now 5:19. Moving on to tab item number 10. This is discussion and possible action regarding A as listed in the previous item. Wait for Ms. Earls to finish. Not a problem. So I will entertain a motion to discuss, take action on regarding item number A from the executive session that was just held.
I make a motion to accept the settlement as recommended by council.
We have a motion by Ms. Wilson to accept the settlement as presented by council. Is there a second?
A second.
We have a second by Mr. Hatch. Is there any further discussion on the item? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, back to the original agenda. Moving on to tab item number 3. Okay, thank you. Tab item 3 is approval and signing of minutes from the April 20th, 2017 meeting. Are there any comments? If there are no comments, I'll entertain motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I so move.
We have a motion by Mr. Rosales. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Ms. Wilson. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Tab item number 4, review and approval of the financial report from March 2017.
Good evening, Rosa Goldman, Chief Financial Officer. We are presenting the financial report for the month of March 2017. The report contains the balance sheet, the report of revenues, expenditures, and changes in cash balance, the investment report, and the notes to the financial report. Under the notes to the financial report, as you can see, we don't have any accounts over budget. We have listed the information about the contingency that we had taken $120,000 approved by the board to use for Nexus. And then under the encumbered funds, the litigation reserve, we have a balance. We started with $800,000, and right now we have a balance of $410,339. So we have used, the difference. Under the strategic plan reserve, we haven't used any money as of March. So we still have the 200.
What do you see as your bottom line ending the year?
Well, we cannot, we don't have a lot of accuracy in predicting because most of our expenses come like in June, July, after we have the protest with the hearings.
Yeah.
Once, the hearings come, I'm sorry.
The 410,300.
Yeah, well, we had a litigation reserve that had been established, and we had used from that 800,000.
The reason
We
I
have
asked
used-
is,
Well, so we have a line item in the budget of 300,000. That has to be
130.
used first,
before
330,000.
we tap into
That
this,
has to be used
Yes.
first before
Okay,
we check
thank
it,
you.
right.
So we already used it
So
out,
we've
and it
used
is
that,
on
and
it is
then-
on the page right before.
So we're now in the encumbered funds. And this is all because of the major lawsuits that we have and the reports that we're having done. So all the reports are done, paid for pretty much. It'll just be expert witness testimony that we'll be paying for. So
the
we'll be-
389,000 is what you're referring to. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Thank you.
yes, sir.
The other thing is that when you close out the current fiscal year, if there's any funds
Left
that are
over.
not spent, then the board in the past has taken a portion of that and put it into the litigation reserve or the capital reserve so that instead of budgeting for it and inflating your budget.
I guess in visiting with you, that kind of caught my eye because of the fact that in today's environment, instead of litigation being lessened, it probably is going to accelerate.
Mhm.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
yes,
you.
sir.
Well, up until a couple of years ago, the litigation fund was pretty much the line item of $350,000. So the board has been adding to the litigation fund over the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain motion to approve the financials as presented. We have a motion by Mr. Pettis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rosales. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Tab item 5, monthly health benefit and dental insurance plan report for April.
It's the next page, and as of April, we had a balance of $594,269.
This is just for informational purposes, board members, to see, so that you can see the status of our healthcare. Financial.
Compared to prior years, is it about the same, the balance?
No, I think in some years it was lower than that.
I think we're doing really healthy. It's a little bit
Yeah.
higher.
Claims don't seem to be
Right.
all that high.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, tab item number 6, discussion and possible action regarding using $110,000 from the strategic plan reserve for LED lighting retrofit.
Board members, as you so agreed to our strategic plan before, 110 of it was allocated towards lighting. We are looking at redoing the lighting to the less expensive, less heat LED. We went out, it's a retrofit. We visited with EcoWorks, EMC engineers, and PC Automated Controls. We asked them for quotes. We received a quote for EC Works, but did not include the design and replacement feature. As you see, we have a lot of extra lighting we don't need. And so they're going, in my office alone, I have probably about 10 of these things, so they're going to go in and remove some of these that we don't need. PC Automated did include that. PC Automated is also on the Region 19 Allied Stated Cooperative. So we don't, going through them, that's our bidding process. So they did quote 110,000, so we're recommending the PC Automated Control. We can go ahead and get them started in the areas of the building that the public is not utilizing so much, and because we have hearings going on right now, and then as we have no hearings, then they'll go to those sections of the building, kind of be stretched out. So we're just asking permission to go ahead and visit with PC Automated and get a contract with them. If you have any more questions, Rick Medina's been, as our director of administration and building, he's been visiting with them, and he can give you a little bit tighter information.
So what kind of savings are we looking at once this is all done?
Did they estimate a savings?
Well, they said it'll take about 12 years before we start to pay for the project itself, just on the savings from the electricity. So in 12 years, the savings will pay for this project.
Okay.
That's what they estimate.
And as far as the contract is concerned, is it just a matter of retrofitting and replacing? If some of,
They're going to totally replace the fixture,
uh-huh,
the brand new fixture. They're going to redesign some areas that they feel have too many fixtures and set them in different places. Because the LED lighting is brighter, it's easier on the eyes.
direct.
They don't need as many of these fixtures. It's going to go from 633 fixtures to 481.
That right there will be a savings in electricity,
Yeah.
when you're
And
cutting
light
out
bulbs.
200. And bulbs, yes.
and so what kind of a warranty comes with this contract from them?
We haven't even got into the contract discussion.
Okay.
That's what we want to get into that. If it's like their habit, they fully cover everything.
Okay.
For at least a year, as far as the replacement on the unit.
Over at Isleta, we've undertaken a major, massive approach because of the continuous approach of the electric company. They're relentless, and I really welcome something like this. Having lived in an island as we live here, we can't get into anything better than the El Paso Electric. But there should be substantial savings just in the LED and then the retrofitting
We feel that too. And then just getting rid of over 200 of the extra pictures that we don't need, that right there will help, with the savings. And plus having them stationed a little bit better where our staff will have better lighting. That is very important to me because some of our staff has really bad lighting because of the way it's set up. Because as we've moved people around and created cubicles, it's kind of blocked some of the lighting, so.
Any other questions? If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the action to use $110,000 from the strategic plan for the LED lighting retrofit.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Rosales. We have a second by Ms. Wilson. Is there further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Tab item number 8, the Chief Appraiser's Report. Ms. Kilgore.
All right, I'll keep it brief, but I wanted to update the board members on legislation. The legislators, of course, are still, most of you keep track of all of this, but I wanted to give you an update on what's going to be affecting us. They're in the last stages, the last days. I listened to the House today. They were going through their list of Senate bills that they were approving, that they had been reviewing in committees. Senate Bill 2 is a big one that Dan Patrick and Betancourt are really pushing, and that's the one with the tax revenue, the caps on the tax rates. It is in the House. It was to be heard today. It was not heard today. Today's meetings were recessed until tomorrow at 10 a.m., and it was still not on the floor, was not heard. So not sure what's going to happen with that. There has been some amendments to it regarding appraisal districts, and it's good because it's transparency, but it's going to cost us money. And one of the things is on our notice of appraised values, we have to do an estimate of taxes, which has nothing to do with the value and the protest. So that's coming off, but in allowing that to come off, appraisal districts will now have to send a postcard to every single property owner, giving them information and contact data on where they go to get their tax rate information. Then the appraisal district will have to create and maintain a website that will have all this information of all the taxing entities' rates, effective tax rates, what their dollar amount will be, and the dates of the meetings for the rate hearings. This is supposed to be maintained by the taxing entities. Well, we're lucky in El Paso, we have one consolidated tax office that does it for everybody. So we'll be working with them to get that. Now that, it's not just the cost of that setting up. We will have to go in and change all of our media ads, and we will have to change our written publication that we do because that's going to change what's on the notice and how we do our ads. The other thing, like I said, the rate issue, it's still out there. Dan Patrick has stated publicly that if he doesn't get what he wants, they're going into special session on this rate issue for the municipalities and the counties. So we're not sure what's going to happen with that. Another thing it sets up, we kind of dodged a bullet on this one on Senate Bill 2. They agreed there was language in there that appraisal districts had to create a special ARB panel, and the panel had to be manned by people that had MBAs, CPAs, people in the business that had masters, doctorates, to hear large number properties. Well, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of entities to have a panel or two that's made up of that. We have a hard enough time. We've already lost 4 ARB members since the judge appointed them. So what they've done is created a pilot project on that, and it will be for populations that are over 1 million, and it'll be for values that are over 50 million. Now, none of this is passed yet, but these are some of the amendments that they're looking at. Another thing that looks definitely going to pass, I believe it's already passed the House and the Senate. It will be a cost to us that property owners will now be able to have a formal ARB hearing over the phone. We're waiting to see how the bill reads because we will have to come up with procedures and policies that will keep one person from tying up the phone all day long with multiple accounts. This is set up to help people that cannot get to an appraisal district, either because of a disability or age, or they're so far out in a rural area. So we'll be looking to see how that final bill is and see. We've already designated a panel room that we can set up a phone line, and we'll have this one also as a fallback, so we'll be working on that. That, not only do we have to do that, we have to publicize that we have that available. So that'll be something that'll be changed. Another thing they're looking at, and again, we'll have to change our media spots, is they're changing deadlines. They are looking at, it looks to pass, we're waiting to see the final. They're moving up the rendition deadline from April 15th to April 1st. They're moving up the protest deadline from May 31st to May 15th. but they're also moving up the certified date from July 25th to July 10th. So everything is moving up. That's going to change. We'll have to shift our calendar around to meet those deadlines and the 30-day notice and the 15-day appointment before you can have an appointment. So that'll be something. The dark stores that the comptroller's office was pushing, it was House Bill 27. That's pretty much dead in the water. There was so many changes to that that it became a bill that was more conducive to the dark stores owners than it was to what it was intended to. So I believe that is pretty much done with. There's a couple of bills that we're really watching. One of them, Senate Bill 1848, will increase attorney's fees. An attorney can now is 100,000 max. Now it's going to look like 150,000 plus a percentage of CPI, depending. And comptroller will have to say this is what the percentage is going to be. So the comptroller will have to set that. We're watching that one very closely. That looks like it's being lobbied by the taxpayers. So we're looking at that. There's a couple of others regarding appraisal districts. For me to be able to go give testimony in a lawsuit, I will not be allowed to until I get licensed as a fee appraiser, or unless we hire a consultant fee appraiser to testify on our behalf as to our values. The cost to me, to the appraisal district, to get the appraisers that could testify licensed under this fee appraiser license is close to $1 million. It's $980-something thousand to send all these guys to classes to get them certified. So that is something appraisal districts are concerned about, and we're watching to see what's going to happen with that. The last one has to do with appraisal districts not being allowed to talk to legislators unless we're called upon to talk to a legislator. So going out and visiting with all of our legislators in advance, telling them what we're seeing in the way of property tax reform, transparency, what we very much are for, or what we see as an issue, and we need to bring them up to speed as what's happened during protest seasons or during lawsuits, so they're aware of it. We would not be allowed to do that. So we're hoping that doesn't go through. All those are Senate bills that are in the House. So that's kind of what we're watching these last. The 29th is the last day that anything can happen. If nothing is done and the governor wants to go into special session, it happens after that. So we're watching all of that. Other than that, we've already started our hearings. They've started rather slowly. Majority of the notices are out. About half of our notices of value for our specialty accounts, our ward law accounts, are out. We'll be finishing those up next week. All notices will be out, other than a few stragglers, by the end of next week. We'll start having hearings. I believe it's on the 15th or 16th of June. We're having hearings now, but those will be the big dollar ones, because they'll wait till May 31st to file their protest, and we'll get them entered and get them on. So other than that, unless you guys have any questions for me, I just was giving you kind of a legislative update.
Good, thank you.
Can you send us updates on that SB2 as we get closer to the deadline?
Yes, sir, I sure can.
Okay. Any other questions for Dinah? Being that there's no further business before this board, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much. It is now 6:12.